On a freezing winter night, as I endured agonizing pain from my pregnancy, my mother-in-law demanded $25,000 for false utility bills, accusing me of neglecting my duties. My husband stood by silently as she raged, packing my belongings without my consent. Ignoring my pleas, she threw my suitcase onto the icy driveway and shoved me out, snarling, "You don't belong here." Shivering in the cold, clutching my aching belly, I felt despair and betrayal. But even in my pain, I vowed to fight back and expose their cruelty, determined to reclaim my dignity and justice. My name is Lisa, and I am 35 years old. I've always believed in the power of independence. From a young age, I worked hard to build the life I dreamed of, which included buying a beautiful $6 million house in Denver, a home that symbolized my success as a real estate agent. For years, I focused on my career, but deep down, I longed for love and companionship. That's when I met Mark. He was 38, a tech consultant, and had a charm that made me feel like I was finally ready to share my life with someone. Our first meeting was almost magical. We bumped into each other at a charity gala. I remember how he introduced himself with a confident smile. "Hi, I'm Mark. You must be the smartest person in the room because you've been getting all the attention." I laughed, charmed by his words. We started talking, and by the end of the evening, I felt like I'd known him forever. Over the next few months, we dated, and Mark's wit and ambition won me over. He admired my independence and often said he loved how driven I was. It wasn't long before he proposed, and I said yes, believing I had found my perfect partner. Our wedding was a beautiful affair, filled with laughter and love, but little did I know it was the beginning of a much darker chapter in my life. After our wedding, Mark and I moved into my house. It felt like the perfect start to our life together. The house wasn't just a place to live. It was a testament to everything I had worked for, a sanctuary I had built for myself. At first, everything seemed blissful. Mark was attentive, supportive, and full of ideas about how we could grow together. We would sit in the living room, sipping coffee, and talk about our future. But things started to shift when his mother, Martha, entered the picture. Martha, a 65-year-old retired schoolteacher, was polite at first. She would visit occasionally, offering harmless advice about home decor or recipes. I didn't mind. After all, she was family now. But soon, her visits became more frequent, and her comments turned critical. "Lisa, don't you think the curtains are a little outdated?" she'd ask, her voice dripping with condescension. At first, I brushed it off, thinking she just wanted to feel involved. But then, one day, she arrived with suitcases in hand. "I've decided to move in," Martha announced casually. "You can't expect Mark to live without his mother, can you?" I was stunned. We hadn't discussed this. I turned to Mark, expecting him to back me up, but he looked away. "Mom just wants to help us out. It'll be good to have her around," he said. I felt a knot in my stomach. This was my home, our home, and now it felt like I was losing control of it. But I stayed silent, hoping things would settle down with time. A few months after Martha moved in, I discovered I was pregnant. The moment I saw the positive test, a wave of emotions washed over me. Joy, excitement, and a renewed sense of hope. I believed this baby would bring us closer together and maybe even soften Martha's attitude toward me. I eagerly shared the news with Mark that evening. "Mark, we're going to have a baby," I said, my voice trembling with happiness. He smiled, though his reaction seemed subdued. "That's great news, Lisa," he said, hugging me briefly before sitting back down. I brushed off his lack of enthusiasm, thinking he just needed time to process. Martha, however, reacted with cold indifference when I told her the next morning. "Oh, congratulations," she said with a raised eyebrow. "But you'll need to watch your diet, dear. We don't want you gaining too much weight during the pregnancy." Her words stung, but I chose to focus on the positive. This was my baby, and nothing would ruin this experience for me. As my pregnancy progressed, so did Martha's interference. She criticized everything from my food choices to how I planned to decorate the nursery. "That color is too bright for a baby's room," she'd say, or, Are you sure you're eating enough vegetables? The baby needs proper nutrition. I tried to keep my composure, reminding myself that this was just her way of trying to feel involved. But it wasn't just her comments. Martha started taking over the house. She rearranged furniture without asking, threw out things she deemed unnecessary, and even insisted on having a say in our finances. One evening, as I entered the living room, Martha and Mark were sitting together, discussing something in hushed tones. I approached cautiously. "What's going on?" I asked, sensing tension in the air. Martha handed me a stack of papers. "Lisa, there are overdue utility bills for the house. $25,000 worth," she said, her voice firm. "We need you to pay them immediately." I froze. "That can't be right," I said, flipping through the papers. "I've always been on top of the bills. There must be a mistake." "It's a big house," Mark chimed in. "It's easy to lose track of these things. Just pay it, and we'll move on." "I'll need to verify this first," I said, feeling a sinking sensation in my chest. Martha's eyes narrowed. "Lisa, this isn't a debate. This is your responsibility. You live here too, don't you?" The tension in the room was suffocating, but I refused to back down. "I'll check with the utility company tomorrow," I said firmly. As I turned to leave, Martha muttered, "Typical. Always making things harder for everyone else." The next morning, I called the utility company to verify the supposed overdue bills. My suspicions were confirmed. The bills had been paid in full months ago. Martha and Mark had lied to me. My hands trembled as I held the phone, anger boiling inside me. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was deliberate manipulation. They had tried to steal my money under the guise of an emergency. That evening, I confronted them in the living room. "The utility company confirmed it," I said, holding the papers in my hand. "The bills are paid." "Why did you lie to me?" Martha looked up from her seat, her expression calm but cold. "We needed that money for other family expenses. It's your duty to contribute to the household, Lisa." "My duties?" I snapped, my voice shaking. "This is my house. I've provided for everything, and now you're trying to manipulate me out of my savings?" Mark stood up, his face hardening. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Lisa. It's not just your house. It's our family's home now. Stop being selfish." "Selfish?" I felt the heat rising in my chest. "I'm pregnant, Mark. I've worked hard for this house, for our future. How dare you try to steal from me?" Martha sneered. "If you cared about this family, you'd do whatever it takes to support it. But clearly, you're only thinking about yourself." I glared at both of them, clutching my growing belly. "I won't give you a single dollar. This is my money, and it's for my child's future." That night, as the temperature outside dipped below freezing, I returned home after work to find the house eerily silent and cold. I checked the thermostat, but it wasn't working. Confused, I walked into the living room, where Martha and Mark were waiting. "I've cut off the heat," Martha said, her voice icy. "If you won't help with the bills, you don't deserve to enjoy the comforts of this house." "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice breaking. "I'm pregnant, Martha. You're putting me and the baby at risk." Mark stepped forward, his expression cold and unyielding. "You've made your choice, Lisa. If you won't contribute to the family, you can leave." "Leave?" I asked, stunned. Before I could react, Martha grabbed my suitcase, already packed, and dragged it to the front door. Mark stood by, watching as she threw my belongings onto the icy driveway. "You're no longer welcome here," Martha said, locking the door behind me. I stood outside, shivering in the freezing night, clutching my belly. Tears streamed down my face as I realized the depth of their betrayal. They had thrown me out pregnant, into the cold, with no regard for my safety or that of my unborn child. That night, I called my parents, who lived in Boulder. My father, a retired police officer, and my mother, a homemaker, welcomed me with open arms. "Lisa, you've done nothing wrong," my father said, wrapping a warm blanket around me. "You need to fight back. They can't get away with this." His words lit a fire inside me. I wasn't going to let Martha and Mark steal what I had built. The next day, I contacted Sarah, a close friend and an experienced lawyer. Lisa, this is financial and emotional abuse, Sarah said firmly. We can build a strong case against them. But first, you need to focus on yourself and the baby. I moved into a small apartment in Boulder, determined to rebuild my life and protect my child. Every day, I grew stronger, and every day, I planned my revenge. In the weeks that followed, I focused on regaining control of my life. My small apartment in Boulder was nothing compared to the home I had left behind, but it was safe, warm, and mine. The quiet gave me space to think and strategize. Sarah, my lawyer and closest ally, visited regularly. Together, we started piecing together a case against Mark and Martha. Lisa, the evidence you've collected is powerful, Sarah said as we sat in my living room. We have records showing the utility bills were paid, text messages where they threatened you, and proof of emotional and financial abuse. This isn't just about the house. It's about protecting your rights and your child's future. I nodded, my resolve hardening with each piece of evidence we gathered. Mark and Martha's manipulation had cost me my home, my peace, and almost my health. Now, I was determined to take it all back. As my pregnancy progressed, I leaned on my parents and Sarah for support. My father, a retired police officer, often reminded me, "You're stronger than you think, Lisa. You've already survived the worst. Now it's time to fight." Each day, I documented everything Martha and Mark had done to me. I recalled the night they had thrown me out in the freezing cold, their lies about the bills, and their complete disregard for my pregnancy. I kept a detailed journal, pouring my pain onto the pages, knowing it would one day become my strength in court. At every doctor's appointment, I was reminded of why I couldn't give up. Hearing my baby's heartbeat and feeling her kicks filled me with a sense of purpose. This wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about building a safe future for my child. As I prepared for the court battle, Sarah and I decided to strengthen our case by filing for divorce as well. It wasn't just about the house anymore. Mark and Martha's actions had destroyed any trust or foundation for our marriage. "This divorce is your fresh start," Sarah said as she handed me the papers. "We're also filing criminal charges for endangering your life and the life of your unborn child. What they did is not just immoral, it's illegal." Hearing those words gave me the courage I needed. I signed the divorce papers, feeling a mixture of relief and determination. The day of the trial was tense. The courtroom was packed, and I could feel Martha's glare burning into me as I sat beside Sarah. Mark looked pale, his usual confidence replaced with unease. Sarah presented our case, detailing the lies about the utility bills, the financial manipulation, and the cruel act of throwing me out into the freezing cold while I was pregnant. She didn't hold back, emphasizing how their actions had endangered my life and the life of my child. Mark's lawyer tried to paint me as difficult and unwilling to contribute, but Sarah was ready with evidence. Screenshots of threatening text messages from Martha, proof that the utility bills had been paid, and medical records showing the stress I had endured during my pregnancy. When it was my turn to testify, I spoke with unwavering determination. "Your Honor, I entered this marriage with trust and love. I gave everything to build a future for my family, but instead, I was manipulated, betrayed, and put in danger. My husband and his mother threw me out of my own house on a freezing night, knowing I was pregnant. They didn't just hurt me, they risked my child's life." The judge listened intently, her expression growing sterner with each piece of evidence Sarah presented. After hours of testimony and deliberation, the judge finally delivered her verdict. Based on the evidence, this court finds Mr. Mark and Mrs. Martha guilty of financial coercion, emotional abuse, and endangering the life of Mrs. Lisa and her unborn child. Mr. Mark and Mrs. Martha are sentenced to 6 months in prison and ordered to pay $50,000 in damages. The judge then addressed the divorce. Furthermore, the marriage between Mrs. Lisa and Mr. Mark is hereby dissolved. Mrs. Lisa is granted full custody of her child and retains sole ownership of the house. I felt tears well up in my eyes as the judge's words sank in. Justice had been served. Mark and Martha's manipulative behavior had cost them their freedom and reputation. A month after the trial, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. I named her Grace, a reminder of the strength and resilience I had found through this ordeal. I moved back into my house, reclaiming it as a safe haven for me and my daughter. With Martha and Mark out of the picture, I could finally breathe freely. Every day, as I watched Grace grow, I reminded myself of the lessons I had learned. Betrayal didn't break me, it made me stronger. Now, I was living a life built on truth, independence, and the unshakable bond between me and my daughter. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you enjoyed it and want to hear more captivating tales like this, please don't forget to like this video and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Your feedback means the world to me. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Stay tuned for more stories filled with twists, lessons, and inspiration. Thank you for your support, and I can't wait to see you in the next story.